Okay. Have you ever noticed this thing I've noticed? When you're trying to speak English, um, you kind of like freeze up.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, you want to say the
Uh,
words are there, but then you overthink it.
yeah.
It's like the grammar police suddenly show up. The pronunciation coach is like right there. You just go silent.
Right. And it's so fascinating because it's almost like this bottleneck. Your brain is trying to process so much information at the same time
Yeah.
that it just sort of locks up. And that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today.
Yes. Today we are diving into the idea of think less, speak more,
Yes.
and how that can really help you unlock fluency.
It sounds kind of simple on the surface, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's actually a really powerful shift in how we approach language learning.
Yeah.
And our goal is to really help you train your brain to kind of bypass that overanalysis
Yeah. And just talk.
and just start speaking more naturally.
Yeah. So we're going to be breaking down why we overthink in the first place. What are some of the benefits of speaking more? We're going to talk about some of the fears that hold people back
Absolutely.
and some strategies to overcome them.
Yes, and we're going to give you lots of practical exercises that you can implement right away.
Yeah. So let's talk about that first part.
Yeah.
This overthinking thing.
Yes.
What does it actually look like when it happens?
Well, I think one of the most common ways that it manifests is those long pauses that people take.
Right.
Not just the but like you can almost see the wheels turning, right? It's
Yeah.
like the person is trying to access their vocabulary. They're conjugating verbs in their head, and they're trying to make sure the sentence structure is absolutely perfect all at the same time.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to do like 10 things at once.
Yeah, exactly.
It reminds me of when you're trying to learn a new dance move,
Right?
and instead of just feeling the music and letting your body move, you're like,
Yes.
okay, my left foot needs to go here, my elbow needs to be at this angle, my head tilt, and you end up looking like a robot.
Exactly. It's too much going on in your head.
And it's all driven by this fear of making mistakes.
Of course. Yes.
And that fear then leads to more overthinking and then more hesitation.
It's a cycle.
It is a cycle.
Yes.
So how do we break that cycle?
Well, that's what we're going to get into.
Yes, but first I want to make this point. When you speak your native language,
Yes.
do you ever think about the grammar? Do you think about whether you're using the right words? No, like
So-
it just comes out naturally.
Of course.
So why do we put so much pressure on ourselves when we speak English?
Yes, and I think there's this misconception that native speakers are consciously analyzing every sentence.
Right.
They're not. It's just intuition
They're not
and years of practice.
years of practice.
Yeah,
It's become automatic for them.
exactly. And as learners, we don't have that yet,
Yeah.
but we can get there.
We can get there, but we're not going to get there by just being silent because we're afraid of making a mistake.
Exactly. Silence is the enemy of progress.
Yeah, it really is.
So I want to ask our listeners, have you ever been in a situation where you wanted to say something in English,
Yes.
but you held back because you were afraid of making a mistake?
Oh, absolutely. I think we've all been there.
Yeah, and that's okay, but it's important to recognize that pattern and then start to challenge it.
So what happens when we stop overthinking and we actually start speaking more? Like, what are the good things that come out of that?
Well, I think the first and most noticeable benefit is confidence.
Okay.
When you actually start speaking, even if it's not perfect,
Yes.
you're giving your brain evidence that you can do it.
Yes.
And that in itself is a huge confidence booster.
Yeah, it's like learning any new skill.
Right.
Like when you first start riding a bike,
Yes.
you're going to fall a few times.
Right.
But the more you practice,
Yes.
the more confident you become.
You start to trust yourself.
Yeah.
That's right.
And then from that confidence comes fluency, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The more you speak, the easier it becomes.
Yes, the hesitation starts to disappear and you start to sound more natural.
Yes, and it's not just about sounding good.
Right.
It's also about how we learn.
It is.
When you speak more, your brain starts to pick up on patterns in the language subconsciously.
Yes.
You're not just memorizing grammar rules anymore.
Right.
You're actually starting to internalize them.
That's right.
And this is something that I find so interesting. Think about how kids learn their first language.
Right. They don't study grammar rules.
They don't at all.
No.
They just hear it and then they start speaking.
Exactly. It's all about exposure and practice.
And they make a ton of mistakes.
Of course they do. That's how they learn.
But we as adults, we're so afraid of making mistakes.
We've been conditioned to think that mistakes are bad.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're essential.
Yes. They're how we learn. And I think the more you speak, the more you kind of create this immersive environment for yourself
Absolutely.
in a daily life.
Yeah, you're essentially immersing yourself in English without having to travel to an English-speaking country.
Yeah, and that brings me to another really important benefit of speaking more. It just makes the whole process more fun.
It does. It takes the pressure off.
Yeah.
And it allows you to just enjoy the process of communicating.
Yeah, so to recap the benefits, we've got increased confidence,
Yes.
improved fluency, more natural speaking rhythm,
Absolutely.
and you learn faster, and it's just more enjoyable.
Exactly.
But even though we know all these benefits, there's still this fear that holds a lot of people back.
Of course.
So let's talk about some of the common fears.
Okay, so one of the biggest ones is the fear of making mistakes.
Of course.
Learners often feel like they need to be perfect
Right.
from the very beginning, and that's just not realistic.
It's not realistic at all.
No.
It's like saying, I'm not going to start playing basketball until I can dunk like Michael Jordan.
Exactly. You have to start somewhere.
You have to start somewhere, and you're going to make mistakes along the way.
And that's okay.
But those mistakes are actually valuable.
They are. They show us where we need to improve.
Yeah.
And the types of mistakes you make will change as you progress.
Yeah.
So if you're making different mistakes, that's actually a good sign.
That's a good sign. It means you're moving forward.
It means you're learning.
So we need to shift our mindset from I can't make mistakes
Yeah.
to mistakes are my friends.
Yes. Embrace the mistakes.
They're helping us learn.
Yeah, they are.
Okay, what's another common fear?
Another big one is the fear of being judged.
Oh, yeah.
Learners often worry about their accent or their grammar or their vocabulary, and they're afraid of being laughed at
Right.
by native speakers.
Right, and I think that's a valid fear.
It is.
But in my experience, most native speakers are very understanding and encouraging.
I agree. Most people are just happy that you're making the effort.
Yeah, they're not going to judge you for making a few mistakes.
And even if someone does judge you,
Yeah.
their opinion doesn't matter.
It doesn't define your progress.
Exactly.
Okay, what else? What other fears do people have?
A lot of learners worry about not being able to find the right words.
Yeah.
They feel limited by their vocabulary,
Yeah.
and they're afraid of getting stuck mid-sentence.
Right, but even native speakers sometimes forget words.
Oh, absolutely. It happens to all of us.
And we just find other ways to say what we mean.
We use synonyms.
Yes.
We paraphrase. We use gestures.
Yeah, and you can do the same thing in English.
Exactly.
You don't need to know every single word
No, and it.
to have a conversation.
Yeah,
You can often get your point across with very simple vocabulary.
you can, and that's a skill in itself.
It is.
Being able to communicate effectively with limited vocabulary.
Yeah, and the last fear I want to touch on is this fear of just freezing up.
Yeah.
Like your mind goes blank.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to say.
Right, and that can be really frustrating.
Yeah.
But there's a simple trick you can use in those situations.
Okay, what is it?
Use filler phrases
Okay.
like, let me think, or that's a good question, or even just, or Those phrases buy you some time to gather your thoughts.
Yeah.
And they keep the conversation flowing.
So it's not about avoiding those moments.
No.
It's about having a strategy
Exactly.
for dealing with them.
Have those filler phrases ready to go.
Okay, so let's recap those fears.
Mhm.
We've got the fear of making mistakes,
Yes.
the fear of being judged, the fear of not finding the right words,
Yeah.
and the fear of freezing up.
And we've talked about strategies for dealing with each of those fears.
We have.
So hopefully our listeners are feeling a little bit more confident about
Yeah.
speaking up.
All right, so we've talked about the problem. We talked about why we should speak more, and we talked about some of the fears that hold us back.
We have.
Now let's get into some practical strategies for actually overcoming those fears and speaking more.
Okay, so my number one tip is speak first, correct later.
Okay, what do you mean by that?
A lot of learners spend way too much time planning out what they're going to say in their heads. They try to construct the perfect sentence before they even open their mouth.
Right.
And that just leads to overthinking and hesitation.
It does.
So instead of doing that,
Yeah.
just start speaking.
Just get the words out.
Yes, get the words out and then worry about correcting any mistakes afterwards.
It's like when you're learning to play a new song on the piano.
Right.
You don't sit there and analyze every note before you even touch the keys.
No, you just start playing.
You just start playing and you make mistakes along the way.
And that's how you learn?
Yes. So speak first, correct later.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a great tip. What else?
Another really important strategy is to practice speaking out loud every day.
Okay, even if you don't have anyone to talk to,
Even if you're by yourself,
you could talk to yourself.
you can talk to yourself.
I do that all the time.
I do too. It's a great way to get comfortable with the sounds of English,
It is.
and it helps you to start thinking in English.
Yes, because if you only ever speak English when you're having a conversation with someone else,
Right.
you're always going to be translating in your head,
You are.
which slows you down.
Exactly. So talk to yourself, describe what you're doing.
Yes.
Read out loud, sing along to English songs.
Yeah. All of that helps.
Anything to get your mouth moving and your brain thinking in English?
Okay, here's a technique that I really like. Shadowing.
Oh, yes, shadowing is so effective.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Sure. So shadowing is basically listening to a native speaker and repeating what they're saying in the same time.
Okay, so you're trying to imitate their pronunciation,
Yes.
their intonation, their rhythm,
Everything. Exactly.
and it forces you to process the language really quickly.
It does. It's like a workout for your brain.
Yes, and it also helps you to develop a more natural-sounding accent.
Absolutely.
Okay, what about if you want to take things to the next level? Like, how can you really push yourself to speak more?
Well, the best way to do that is to put yourself in situations where you have to speak English,
Okay.
whether you like it or not.
Like, what kind of situations?
Join an English conversation group. Find a language exchange partner.
Yeah.
Talk to strangers. Volunteer at an event where you have to speak English.
Yeah, like anything where you're forced to use the language.
Exactly.
And you don't have a choice.
Because when you have no choice,
Yeah.
you find a way to
You can-
communicate.
And the last strategy I want to mention is this. Stop translating in your head.
Yes. This is so important.
I know it's tempting,
It is.
especially when you're first starting out,
Especially then.
but it really slows you down.
It does, because you're adding an extra step to the process.
Yeah, you're hearing the English, you're translating it into your native language,
Yeah.
and then you're formulating a response in your native language,
Yeah.
and then translating that back into English.
Right. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, and it's time-consuming.
So the goal is to train your brain to think directly in English
Yeah, and how do we do that?
by immersing yourself in the language as much as possible.
Yeah.
Watch English movies and TV shows.
Yes.
Read English books and articles. Listen to English music and podcasts.
Yeah, surround yourself with the language,
Person found yourself with.
and eventually you'll start to think in it.
Exactly. It'll become more natural.
So to summarize those strategies, we've got speak first, correct later,
Yes.
practice speaking out loud every day,
Yeah.
shadow native speakers,
Yeah.
put yourself in situations where you have to speak English,
Absolutely.
and stop translating in your head.
Those are the keys to success.
They are?
And now let's talk about some daily practices that can help you to implement those strategies.
Yes, let's get specific.
Okay, so one of my favorite practices is the 1-minute speaking challenge.
Okay, I like that. What is that?
So every day, choose a topic and speak about it for 1 minute without stopping.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what the topic is.
Okay.
It could be just something that you're interested in.
Okay.
The point is to just keep talking,
Yeah.
even if you make mistakes.
And you're not allowed to stop?
Keep going for the whole minute.
That's a good challenge.
It is, and as you get better, you can increase the time. But start with 1 minute.
1 minute.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Another great practice is to talk to yourself in English throughout the day.
Okay, we talked about that a little bit earlier.
We did, but I want to emphasize it again
Yeah.
because it's so important.
It is.
Just keep that English flowing.
Yeah, keep that internal monologue going
Technically.
in English.
Describe what you're doing, what
Yes.
you're seeing, what you're thinking.
And you can also record yourself
Oh, yes, that's a great idea.
speaking and then listen back to it.
Yes, it can be a little cringy at first,
It can.
but it's really helpful.
It is.
Because you can hear your mistakes.
Yeah.
And you can identify areas where you need to improve.
Yes. And it also helps you to get used to the sound of your own voice
Oh,
speaking English.
which can be a big hurdle for some learners.
It can be.
So yeah, record yourself.
Okay, here's a fun one. Talk to yourself in the mirror.
Oh, yeah, I love that one.
It's a great way to practice your facial expressions
It is.
and your body language.
Right. And it helps you to get more comfortable with seeing yourself speak English.
Yeah, because a lot of people feel self-conscious
I do.
on how they look when they're speaking another language.
So the mirror helps with that.
It does.
Yeah.
Okay, what else?
Sing along to English songs.
Yes.
That's a fun and easy way to improve your pronunciation.
And your rhythm.
Yes.
And your intonation.
And you learn new vocabulary
Yeah.
without even realizing it.
It's true, and it's fun.
It is.
Okay, last daily practice.
Talk to at least one person in English every day.
Okay.
It could be a friend, a family member, a teacher, a language exchange partner.
Yeah.
Anyone, just find someone to talk to,
Even if it's just for a few minutes.
even for a few minutes.
It makes a difference.
It does. It keeps you accountable,
It does.
and it helps you to stay motivated.
All right, so we've got the 1-minute speaking challenge, talking to yourself in English, recording yourself,
Yes.
talking to yourself in the mirror, singing along to English songs, and talking to at least one person in English every day.
Those are great daily practices that
Right.
will help you to make progress.
Yes. So to wrap up today's deep dive,
Yes.
what's the one message that you want our listeners to take away?
I want them to remember that perfection is not the goal.
Okay.
Communication is the goal.
Yeah.
You don't need to speak perfect English to be successful.
You don't.
No. What matters is that you can communicate your ideas.
Yeah, and I think a lot of learners get stuck in this trap of waiting until they feel ready to speak.
They're waiting for the perfect moment.
Yeah.
But that moment may never come.
It might not.
So you say to create it yourself.
Yes, and the only way to create it is to start speaking.
Exactly.
Even if you're not ready.
Even if you make mistakes.
Embrace those mistakes.
Embrace them.
They're proof that you're learning.
They are.
So here's a challenge for all of our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
Speak in English every single day.
Yes.
Even if it's just for a minute or two.
Just make it a habit.
Yeah. Yeah, and surround yourself with the language.
Yes.
Watch English movies, listen to English music, read English books.
Do whatever you can.
Yeah.
To make English a part of your daily life.
And here's one final challenge for you to do right now.
Okay.
After you finish listening to this deep dive,
Yes.
take 1 minute and talk out loud about something that we talked about today.
That's a great idea.
Just speak.
Just